Sleeping Beauty, it's always been a symbol for me of the most wonderful thing Walt Disney ever created. It really was an amazing tour de force, and certain cues that were present in that print became kind of the basis for a campaign to see that we could get that soundtrack restored.
One of the most exciting things about this new mix is the clarity of the orchestra. It sounds like you're in the concert hall with them.
A forest of thorns shall be his tomb, born through the skies on a fog of doom.
It couldn't have been done in 1959, but with this new Blu-ray disc, you will be able to experience a connection between the picture and the audio like you've never heard before.
And I think for a lot of people, they're going to be amazed at the difference from their old video cassettes to what this technology is. The clarity of the picture and sound is unbelievable.
When Sleeping Beauty premiered in 1959, it was a landmark. I mean, not only did we get the widescreen, we got very stylized artwork to go with it, and stereophonic sound, which nobody had ever really heard before. Not only did Walt introduce the full-length animated feature to Hollywood, he was also very instrumental in updating the sound and creating great sound to go along with these films. Mickey's first cartoon short was the first cartoon with synchronized sound. Fantasia was the first film with multi-channel sound, a precursor to today's surround sound. Sleeping Beauty was the first true stereo soundtrack. You have 2 channels of audio, but the way these things are mic'd and reproduced gives you an image in the center that really isn't there. That is true stereo.
Goodbye.
But when will I see you again?
Oh, never, never.
Never?
Well, maybe someday.
When?
Walt always felt that Tchaikovsky's ballet was the perfect underscore to tell his story. But there needed to be transitions to get from one phrase to another, to emote different things for different sections of the film. So it was up to Disney composer George Bruns to make that happen. I think Bruns did an incredible job. You can hardly tell any of the changes that he made. He stayed very true to Tchaikovsky's original intent.
There must be some way. There is. There is.
I was surprised to learn that they originally started recording the music in America, but ultimately decided to go to Germany because the finest state-of-the-art recording studio was there and they wanted the best possible sound.
Why, Harry, I won't have it! You're a prince, and you're going to marry a princess!
Now, Father, you're living in the past. This is the 14th century now.
When we first started working on the restoration for the Blu-ray of Sleeping Beauty, we really had no idea whether or not the original audio elements might exist. In most cases, they don't.
Make it blue. Pink.
In the mid-50s, a lot of the separated elements were destroyed. They figured they'd never go back and remix the movie again. But when it came to Sleeping Beauty, I came across these elements, and it turned out to be the actual recording sessions straight off the floor from Germany.
MM 5215.
1, 2, 3,
4. False starts, bad takes, alternate versions, the whole full recording sessions. When I was listening to this stuff, it was just amazing. The recordings were so clean, and the noise floor was so low. You could actually hear the clothes rustling as the violins are bowing. It's like you're at a concert.
Tonight, we toast the future!
Now that we had these musical elements that were in pristine condition, we had another challenge because the dialogue and the sound effects, unfortunately, had been done on magnetic tape, and they were very disparate from the music elements. So we needed to bring in an expert to restore those tracks, and we were fortunate enough to get Oscar-nominated mixer Terry Porter.
And just before we say goodbye...
Sleeping Beauty's original audio tracks had many technical challenges. This first clip that I'm going to show you shows a level of hiss and pops and snaps and rumble that we had to address and take out of the track before we could add it to the new music. Every time the bird tweets, you hear snaps, crackles, and pops. One of the things I had to get rid of in the restoration were those artifacts. So here's the cleaned up track after the restoration. The traditional audio mix has always been a two-dimensional experience. The new 7.1 Blu-ray mix gives you more of a 3D audio experience. The prince is riding his horse in the forest, and he hears Aurora singing.
You hear that, Samson?
And at one point, she will be imaging behind you, off in the distance in your right ear.
What is it? Come on, let's find out.
And then he will chase it on his horse to the right. Then he'll come to a stop and he'll hear the voice, and you as the audience will hear it emanating from behind you in your left ear. And pictorially, the prince will take off to the left to try to chase it down. So we are tying the picture and the sound and following the images on the screen.
Behold, King Stephen's castle. And in
There are several spots where she's telling a story.
But see the gracious whim of fate. Why, 'tis the selfsame peasant maid who won the heart of our noble prince but yesterday.
And her voice goes into this dreamlike world because she's showing the prince images of what his future is going to be. And her voice no longer comes from the screen with her face, but as these images come on the screen of his future, her voice emanates from no particular point. It's almost within your own head.
And our prince is free to go his way. Off he rides on his noble steed, a valiant figure, straight and tall, to wake his love with love's first kiss.
It's surprising, at least, and kind of startling when you hear instruments and things that have been buried in 6 generations of re-recording since way back in 1959. There was a sequence on this where Aurora is being drawn up by a mystic spell, it's a Maleficent. And during that, there's a call out that I always thought my whole life was just a musical tone that was sort of an ah, ah. That's the way it has been mixed down and kind of compressed over all these years. On the track, it suddenly opened up, and it was clearly the word Aurora, Aurora.
Not only was it more chilling, it's those kinds of things that you discover that really make it all worthwhile. I mean, things that have always been there that you now notice for the first time, but they've always been there.
In 1959, Sleeping Beauty at that point sounded great in theaters, but what's exciting about this new release is that we've gone back to the original pristine tracks.
The people that preceded me had quite a difficult job in doing this, and the results of their original mix, I take my hat off to, is amazing. Our mixes are much more complicated because of the technology, but what they accomplished back in 1959 just amazes me.
Seize that creature!
Stand back, you fools!
We have a responsibility to these artists to make sure that their artistic vision is, perpetuated forever, but also true to the original intent of what they wanted, even though the technology wasn't available for them. It is for us now, and now we can pay those artists back.